what is the plan on how to leave the union should the Scottish people vote for another referendum? And she says that she'll certainly be voting to leave if she believes being part of the union is bad for Scotland. So what do you think about?
Well, in terms of the legislation, we have that ready. Remember, in terms of the referendum, we've got the referendum legislation already through the Parliament. We've published the Independence Bill. The First Minister has also been clear today, for those that haven't heard, is that we know that we are still in a COVID pandemic, and so therefore we will ensure that we hold that referendum once the crisis has come through. And I think that people, I know for those of us that are nationalists, and I've been an independence activist for well over 30 years, in fact probably over 35 years, I want independence as soon as I can, but I also know we've got to take people with us. And I think one of the important things to remember is this election is not just about electing a government, it's about growing the support for independence so that people can believe in what we're doing, because we're showing what we can, and we're demonstrating that in the manifesto, but we're bringing them with us on that journey to independence. I don't want to just it's not the process of how, it's the issue of what we do with independence and why we want it. And I think if we get fixated on processes, and processes are determined by politics, this is about politics. And the idea that we can somehow second guess anything else that's going to happen at this election, we make things happen. Just as much as you're talking about independence or self-determination is a choice for the people of Scotland. Scotland's future is Scotland's choice and nobody else's. What we're doing now is part of that process. So the more votes, obviously, the SNP achieve, and the popular vote does matter, and that's on both votes. But being able to be a majority government internationally, remember I spent 10 years as effectively Scotland's ambassador, as our External Affairs Secretary, and being able to hold our head as a majority government will be really, really critically important. And that means that if we can get the same number of votes on the regional list as we get on the constituency, vote, that allows us then to be in the strongest position that we can be. And I think that matters for international recognition. Interesting to use the word self-determination, that I think matters, I suppose, to individuals and how they see it. It's not necessarily the word or the determination that internationally is commonly used, and so therefore it's not a term that I was using in my international diplomacy work previously. It was about independence, but Scotland's position is absolutely uniquely understood within the European Union. You saw Donald Tusk's remarks, that emotionally there would be great enthusiasm. We are quite unique in our positioning, everybody understands that. And how we go about getting independence is also important in how we will be treated by other countries as part of that. So when we put forward that independence bill, we're doing it on the basis that one of the important steps in becoming that independent state, we are an independent state in waiting just now, but to become that independent state is to have that international recognition. So something that's legally internationally recognised is absolutely essential within that. But don't underestimate the power of the politics. And anybody who's known, and you talked about history and studying history, independence movements, when they come to fruition, they can be a long haul, and for many of us it's been a long haul for a long time, but when it tips quickly and it moves quickly. But in terms of our experience, 14 years in government, we are a known entity, both obviously to the people of Scotland increasingly, but also internationally, and that will stand us in good stead for that next step in terms of that recognition.
Well, I think the manifesto is very, very clear about putting independence front and centre. It's absolutely clear about that, and about Scotland's future and Scotland's choice. And it'll be interesting to see how the opposition parties deal with the manifesto, given its ambition, given its breadth and its range. I mean, I listened to Anas Sarwar in Good Morning Scotland this morning, and I mean, he's still kind of taking the line of, in effect, no referendum ever again, ever. Which, of course, for people who came out of a Labour tradition and left the Labour Party because they perceived in 2014 that the Labour Party, faced with that choice, chose to align themselves with the Tories, I think that will continue to be a very awkward awkward policy for them, that they've been stuck in kind of, you know, a kind of whirlpool ever since 2014. And I mean, I don't see them changing anytime soon, but
and they haven't had that reality check, you know, and for me to have won this seat in 2011, and for your predecessor Angus MacDonald, and I want to pay tribute to him and all his work and some of the joint work that we've done, particularly in the Avon Gorge and other areas. But you know, for him to win the Falkirk East seat off Labour, that shift is not something that was temporary, and it was fairly fundamental. And I think there's a bit of denial from the opposition as to where things have gone. Now, remember, you know, I am of the view that, you know, yes, we're fighting an election, and everybody's, you know, will say things, and there will be, you know, fierce competition between different parties. Although this idea that the Tories and Labour just have given up, I mean, that's, how arrogant is that? Just, you know, not to fight to win, not to fight to become the government, or to try and become the first minister for their two leaders. I think that's a disrespect to democracy and the people of Scotland. The SNP, even when we weren't winning, and when, you know, we were not polling nearly as strongly as we are just now, we always fought to win, because you can only win if you believe you can do this. It's like, we'll only win independence if we believe we can be independent. And I think that's where I think people want to back winners. They don't want to back losers, and they've thrown in the towel. So who do you think has got the strong experience, one, to get us through COVID, but also to set a course for Scotland, and that independence course, I think is increasingly gaining in traction. But, you know, I don't want to just win by a couple of percent. I want to win, and win well. So we have to reach out. And I think you see the shifts, in some of it in demographics. You see it with young people, and the shift now, more women supporting independence than previously. But we've also got to face forward. There's always a temptation in politics to fight the last election, or fight the last referendum, and this it won't be and I actually don't like the phrase IndyRef 2. I think it's IndyRef new. It will be a new referendum in a new context, in a new time, and actually we need to make sure that we're in that position. And there are people that we still have to take with us, and some older people as well, particularly because we know that from the demographics. So how do we give them comfort and support? And I think Nicola Sturgeon has demonstrated to that demographic, particularly in how she's you know, supported and led the country through the COVID crisis. We haven't got everything right, we know that, but I think there's a level of trust that she will always put Scotland's interests first, and for that group of people who maybe hadn't thought about voting SNP before. And I'm picking that up a bit as you are. I'm not knocking doors, because West Lothian had a quite high level of infection, and you know, we're conscious if people can't see their families, I'm not sure how much they want somebody knocking their door. But as you said, you know, it's nice weather, people are chatting and volunteering and coming, and people who perhaps haven't voted before saying, do you know, Nicola Sturgeon stood up for us, we'll stand up for her.